My name's Carly Stong. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm coming to you from my home studio here in Kingston, Ontario. I'm going to turn off my plants grow lights here because they're very distracting to me. So today's class is just a gentle yoga to wake up kind of the end of your week, the start of your week. All you need is a blanket. So coming to sit, I like to fold the blanket up quite high and come to sit on it so that I have as much as support as possible. So you could grab a couple of blankets if you'd like, or just the one, whatever is best for you. Ideally, when you come to sit, there ought to be not too much sensation in your knees or your hips. And I always find it more comfortable to have yourself propped up high enough so your hips are higher than your knees. And then try to align yourself so it feels as though your head is just weightlessly floating on top of your spine. So shift the curvatures of your spine around a little bit, forward and back. Maybe this is the first time today or the first time this week that you've had the opportunity to really slow down and tune in. For a lot of people, the only opportunity that they really give themselves to sort of be still is just preparing to sleep. So it can be really difficult in a conscious state to practice that quieting. So once your physical body is as comfortable as possible, and if sitting on the floor doesn't achieve that for you, you're welcome to sit on a chair or to come to a different position altogether. Once your physical body is as comfortable as possible, we'll want to bring the mind to sort of quiet or urge the mind to quiet. So maybe closing through the eyes to block out some of the visual stimulus, maybe turning on soft music or turning off some of the audio distractions. And then allowing for your breath to flow in and out through your nose. Trying to do so with as little effort as possible. So just allowing the breath to be exactly as it is here. Notice your lungs' capacity to fill and stretch from the inside out. And then your musculature's ability to maintain support once that air has left your body. And while you're quieting the mind and moving your attention to the breath in this way, you might start to become aware of things that before you weren't so aware of, maybe little aches or pains or discomforts. It's just noting those as well. You can imagine the rest of this class almost like an extension from this first practice. So here, focusing on the breath, moving in and out through the nose, we have this gift of almost being able to slow down time. So as we continue now to start to layer movements on top of that, it's almost as though they're all coming from this same thread, this slow, mindful state. So when you next inhale, allow for one ear to just drop to the shoulder. And then roll the neck over, open your other ear to the sky. Inhale, open the ear to the sky, exhale, little roll. And if that's moving a little too quickly, you could always take a couple of breaths instead. If you feel capable of doing so, maybe making full neck circles in one direction and the other. Allow for your shoulders to be quite heavy here, your arms to hang from their sockets, so that we're really isolating this movement to the neck. And then once you've done a few circles in that way, we'll start to circle the shoulders up and then back down, and forward. Circling around. And then maybe changing direction up and around. Just starting to wake up the body. On your next inhalation, open the arms wide and then push your palms away from you. Notice how your fingers curl. So we're going to push the palms towards extended walls, left and right. Extend your fingers as wide and straight as you can. Open your chest, inhale, and then exhale, give yourself a little hug. Inhale, push the palms away, try to straighten the fingers and spread them wide. Exhale, give yourself a little hug, maybe bringing the opposite arm on top. Inhale and exhale. One more time. And then we're going to bring your hands onto your shoulders now and go for a little kayak. So elbows are going to make big circles forward and then big circles back. And maybe if you want to really challenge your brain, see if you can bring one back and the other forward. And then change directions. Really try to make the biggest circles available to you. Now to mobilize a little bit through the spine, let's change our relationship to gravity. So I'm going to shift myself over to hands and knees. If hands and knees isn't comfortable for you, you can still practice this shape from a seated position. Moving, or rather supporting underneath the wrists and knees if you need to. Now, this isn't a position outside of the yoga space that we come to very often. So if you need to kind of pat around a little bit, find a place of comfort for you. Most of all, try not to rely solely on your joints to support you here. So while your wrists and your knees are making contact with the ground, you want to extend a little bit into the back of your body, almost like you're holding up something heavy with your spine, so that there's a little less pressure on those joints. And then, like you were trying to roll a ball from your tail to your head, slowly tip your tail to the ceiling, and then vertebra by vertebra, rolling to arch the back, shoulders roll back, head looks up. Keeping your chest open in this way, now tuck your tail. And vertebra by vertebra, you're going to move in the opposite direction. And again, tip your tail to the ceiling, making a little curvature through the spine. The purpose of this exercise is to really just to mobilize between as many vertebrae as possible. And we're going slowly and deliberately in this kind of methodical way so that we're less likely to just move into the poses that we always do. Maybe one more time. This time, let's start with our head and our shoulders opening. A little bit of a different experience. Try to open through the mid-back before your tail lifts. And then diving downwards to try to arch the back in the opposite direction. Now, we're going to sit back. If you're able to, I'm going to curl my toes under and sit back towards my heels to kind of stretch into the feet. Another option is to stretch into the ankles by keeping the tops of your feet down and allowing your seat to sink back. If neither of these options, or rather if both of these options introduce a sense of pain, then please just choose to sit instead just flat onto your seat. We're going to bring the hands away from the ground. Bring your palms to that flex position, and then use the other hand to kind of pull the fingertips away. Just a gentle stretch here. If it's too much for your bum to be that close, you can always lift up. Sorry about that. You can always lift up with straight legs. And we'll do the other side. So the arm is as straight as possible, and then you're adding a little bit more sensation with a bit of a pull through your fingers. Circling the wrists. And then coming back to your tabletop shape. Now, remember, we're holding up something heavy on the back, so we've got lots of support. Even in the back of the neck. Take an inhale. As you exhale, bring your left ear towards your left hip and your left hip towards your left ear. Back to center. So really try not to arch the back too much here. Keep that heavy load lifting upwards. And then your right ear to right hip and vice versa. So we're going to kind of wag the tail. And really notice a shared effort, not just ear towards hip, but also hip up towards ear, really activating the muscles in the side body, while at the same time getting a little bit of a stretch through the other. Now, we're going to bring left ear to left hip. This time, I want you to really drive your left hip up, pushing your right hip over. So it's your right hip that's going to propel your left hip up. And then back to center, same thing on the other side. So right ear to right hip, and then you're going to use your left hip to really push that right hip up. Now let's take the knees a little wide, sink your bum back towards your heels if it's comfortable, and come into a bit of a rest. First, we'll bend the elbows and bring the hands onto the forehead in a shape I call forearm resting pose. Breathing space into the back of the body where the largest lobes of your lungs reside. Maybe this feels comfortable, and if so, let's linger here. Soak it up. If you want a little bit more extension, maybe you're going to bring fist on top of fist and head comes down a little further. Or palm on top of palm and the head comes down further still. You could even reach the arms forward and extend your forehead towards the mat. In any case, our intention here is to open up those little spaces in your spine. So choosing whichever option allows for you to do so. And it's another great opportunity here to reconnect to that breath that we established at the beginning of our practice. The inhale and the exhale through the nose. Now let's come out of this shape and create a little bit of space on either side of us. I have to admit, it's one of my favorite ways to wake up my body, this next sort of movement. And it's a little difficult to show, especially with the microphone. So I'm going to do my very darndest best. Let's come to lie on the belly. And when you come to lie on the belly, you're going to extend your legs straight out behind you. And then arms to sort of a T shape. And turn to look to your left. So if it feels like your head takes a big drop to the floor here, you can bring a blanket underneath your head. I'm going to walk you through, so you're welcome to look first and practice second. I'm going to walk you through the sort of steps for this pose and then give you a little bit of time to explore and get creative. So first, the hand you're looking at, you're going to bring that hand close to your face. So you're going to bend your elbow, bring the hand close to your face. Same arm as leg lifts, and swings over. Oh, my plant swings over. Opposite leg. Now, at the same time, in order to not get like jammy in your shoulder, the arm behind you as you roll actually slides away from you, like it slides across the floor. And then come back to center. So let's show you the same thing on the other side. So now you're going to turn your head to the other side. Bend your elbows so the hand comes close to your face or close to your shoulder. Same arm as leg lifts up. And now watch as I lift my leg up and roll, my left arm's actually sliding across the floor. It's making distance across the floor, so there's lots of room. And once you're here, you can straighten the leg, you can swing it around, you can reach for the other hand. There's no right or wrong way. You could just roll back and forth. The rolling is so good for your nervous system. The open stretch feels so good for the parts of your body that are so compressed when you're sitting during the week. So there's no real right or wrong way to do this. Just go ahead and get creative. If it feels good, it is right. For a couple more breaths here. I have to bend my knees real funny or I'll kick my plants. And then once you've done that a few times that feel really great, you're going to just come back to the belly. I try to spend some time on my belly in my practice, mostly because I don't really spend much time elsewhere. I don't think I ever come onto my belly, if not when I'm on my mat. So here, bend your knees if they're not already bent, and just let the legs kind of windshield wash your side to side, side to side. I'm using my fist or my hand on top of hand kind of to support my head. You could do the same if you want. Now, bring your legs relatively close together. It should feel like your knees are right underneath, like in the same line as your sitting bones. So if you know what your legs feel like when you're standing in mountain pose, they'd feel kind of the same way here. If you don't know, don't worry about it. And then moving, so we're going to ground through the hips. So notice the pubic bone and maybe your hip points are all pressing down into the floor, and they're not going to wiggle. They're not going to lift off the floor. Your feet, however, rather your legs, however, are going to rotate. So I'm going to flex my feet and try to rotate my thighs away from each other and then towards each other, and I'll end up shin on top of shin. Away from each other as far as you really can. Go, 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 go. And then towards each other, maybe your other shin on top of shin. Away from each other as far as you can. If you're feeling this in your knees, that's why I keep the feet flexed to keep the legs a little stronger. So you really are rotating from the thigh bone. Maybe one last time. And then come back to resting on the belly. Maybe if that feels uncomfortable, go ahead and flip to your back. Another reason why I really love resting on my belly is it gives me an opportunity to send breath into the back of the body, which I just think feels so great for those tight muscles. Now we're going to roll onto the side. I'm going to put my headset back on. Sorry for the crunchy crunchies. Whoop. Putting it on backwards. There we go. So you're going to grab a blanket or two to bring underneath your head. I'm going to start off by lying on my right side, but you could be on either. It doesn't matter which. But as you come to lie down, try to align your shoulders, hips. Let's see, shoulders, low back, and knees all on the same line, if you can. So we're not going to be like rolling forward or rolling back, really shoulder above shoulder. And I've got something under my head so that my head isn't dropping towards the floor. Now, we're going to want to pin the whole body still. So I'm going to take my top arm and place it onto my hip, not to hold myself there, but just to be aware if that hip starts to move around. So just moving the top leg in the hip socket, I'm going to try and bring my thigh as close to my chest as possible without actually rolling forward, if that makes sense. And then keeping hip stacked on top of hip, I'm going to take that knee and bring it up towards the ceiling. So I'm really being conscious here not to roll backwards. Now, once I'm as far open to the ceiling as I can, flex the foot, straighten your leg to the sky, bend your knee, straighten and bend. Straighten as much as you can straighten, bend as much as you can bend. Straighten and bend. For some reason, my knees are so crunchy today. Why are you so crunching these? Straighten and bend. Ugh. And then same thing, we're going to come all the way back to knee on top of knee. Now take your top arm to the ceiling and draw those big circles. So we're going to have shoulder on top of shoulder, and coming up above your head, you're going to actually slide that shoulder away from your body. So reach like you're trying to grab something above your head. Forward. When you're coming down, it's like you're carrying heavy groceries, and then flip your palm to the ceiling. Here's the part where I'm most likely to roll onto my back. So I'm going to be really conscious, stay nice and strong so that it's just my shoulder making those circles. And once you've circled in one direction, maybe circle the other. So I'm really just giving the opportunity for as many of my joints as possible to move through the full range of motion that's available to me. For your joints, motion is lotion. They love to move. So once you've done a couple circles one way, a couple circles the other, let's come onto the side. Once again, just being still here. Silly knee is acting funny. Come on, there we go. Now here, bringing your hands maybe to the ribs that you can feel. See if when you breathe, you can allow for the space beneath your hand to expand. Those little muscles in between each rib. Awesome job. It's not a small task to be able to slow down and be aware of your body in this way. So great work. Let's flip to the other side. So if you're just laying on your one side, you can just roll over to your other side. I'm going to spin right around so that you can still see me and come on to my other side. But again, you don't have to do like a whole spin. You can just roll. And when you're setting yourself up as best you can, try to feel like the heart is on top of the pelvis, is And the heart is like kind of right under your brain or your third eye. So we've got this nice straight line. Sorry for my mic adjustments here. There we go. Now, hip on top of hip, and we're not going to roll forward and we're not going to roll back. So notice with your bottom leg, which parts of your leg are making contact with the floor. And now as we start to move, see if you can still maintain those same points of contact, okay? Let's give it a try. Knee comes up towards the chest. Maybe it's a similar kind of feeling. Maybe it feels quite different. Rotate the knee to the ceiling. Straighten bend a couple times. Definitely for me, for reasons, don't know why, this knee is moving a lot easier on this side. Get those knee caps flushing as straight as you can, as bent as you can. And then circle around. Maybe do that a couple times if it feels good. Hips, knees, and feet are so interconnected. When one goes funky, the others tend to go funky. Let's come back to our side now. Take that top arm and make your big circles. High five, my plants. Whoop. Sweep behind. My plant situation's getting a little out of control, I have to say. I've got them all gathered in here to get under the plant light. So they're crowding me. Circling in one direction, circling the other. I'm going to do it with my hand on my elbow or on my shoulder because it does the same exact thing. Takes up less room. Get those shoulder joints moving. It feels so good. And then let your hand come to the ribs. And try to direct your breath right underneath your palms, right onto in between the bony protrusions. Well, they're not really protrusions, hopefully. The bony parts of your ribs, right between those ribs. And then I'll invite you to pause for a moment. You could close through the eyes or leave them open. Bring your attention inwards and ask of yourself, what shape would feel like rest for you? We're seeking a position that feels like, how could I describe it? Like conscious rest. So when you're sleeping, you're in like unconscious rest, and we're seeking a real conscious rest. So if you're very, very tired today, it might not be the best idea to be lying down for this part of the practice because you might fall asleep. So if you choose to sit up or be slightly inclined, how could you find the most amount of comfort in that pose? So let's all try and find a shape that balances for ourselves comfort with consciousness. So we want to find that sweet spot in between. Maybe it's on your back, maybe it's on your side, seated, maybe it's on your belly. I'm going to go on my back. I don't think we spent a ton of time there today. And a great tip that I learned from a meditation teacher of mine, if you find yourself quite tired and you're trying to sort of quiet the mind without falling to sleep, just leave your eyes open. Sometimes I feel a little uncomfortable when I'm doing so in a yoga class. But here I'm just in my own home. I can do whatever. You could be in whatever pose you want. You could be on your lazy boy recliner chair if you wanted. And you don't have to get it right the first time. So if you come to a shape and you thought in your mind that it would be super comfortable, And then when you're in the shape, it's actually not that comfortable. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay to pick a different pose. So now you've been here for a couple of breaths. Really check in with how it's feeling in your body. And if it doesn't feel like rest, then shift and adjust yourself till you find rest. Maybe take a moment to scan through your week. Starting all the way back to Monday. Whatever comes to your mind, people you spoke to, challenges, accomplishments, the mundane, the exciting. All of the ways you spent your energy this week, all of the ways you shared your heart or your thoughts. Then looking to the week ahead, allow for one word to come to your mind that feels suitable for describing your intentions for the week ahead. Try to be open to your intuitive self expressing a need through this word, and then repeat it in the back of your mind with every inhale. If you're finding it difficult today to stay present with this mindfulness task without drifting towards sleep, then while you look ahead to the week, as you inhale, breathing and noticing, and when you exhale, in the back of your mind, count 1. And then 2. and letting go of that gentle practice. Starting to move your body now. Maybe allowing your eyes to flutter. Continuing to allow for the end of your practice to integrate itself into the rest of your practice. So take your time here. Maybe sliding your thumb across the other fingers. Checking in with how you're feeling here. I like to move out of my shape just slightly, a slight change. So in this case, I had my hands sort of lifting or supporting my seat. So I've slid them out. I'm in sort of the same shape, but slight difference. And certainly feeling it in my body as much different than I did when we began. And as you feel ready, slowly inch your way over to one side. If you're not, on your back, then move just into a different position. Maybe take a big stretch. Maybe come to stand, maybe fold forward, whatever makes sense in the space that you're in. And I'd like to end class today in the same shape we started. So take your time from wherever you are to come back to sitting on the chair or on the blankets on the floor, whichever you were doing. And if you're able to, maybe even come to the same shape or relatively the same shape. And then once you're there, check in once again here with how you're feeling. Certainly how your physical body is feeling. Maybe even compared to how it was feeling. And then even more so, how fast or slow are your thoughts now coming? What does your breath feel like? How much energy do you have? Do you feel like you have now as compared to earlier before your practice? Clarity of thought. And when you're ready, take a mindful in breath through the nose and out through the nose. And maybe give yourself a word of gratitude for having made time to come to your practice this morning, for moving with care, being gentle with yourself, and becoming present or more present. And you're welcome to also join me in offering gratitude to the people upon whose land we live and practice. to our ancestral roots of yoga, the lineage that has come before us. And lastly, I want to extend my gratitude to all of you for taking this time this morning to care for yourself so that we can more easily care for one another.